World, wake up!
World, wake up!
Russia is a terrorist state!
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 Help Ukraine protect peace!
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 Arms keep peace. This is something very simple to understand, and yet many of the demagogues pocketed by the Russian terrorist regime keep claiming otherwise. They keep saying as if helping Ukraine is only going to be a strain on the budgets of the Western countries. They keep saying that those weapons are only putting more fuel in the fire. What kind of logic is that, my friends? That you help somebody who's defending himself against the aggressor is putting more fuel in the fire. Is that really what we would say somebody who did nothing wrong and who's getting attacked by a psychopath on the street? It's calling the police putting more fuel on fire. Perhaps the police tasering the guy, the killer with a knife in his hand, is putting more fuel in the fire. Oh, but if you use violence to stop them, you're no better than they are. That's a mere platitude, my friends. Idiocy. Apologetics like these have no weight in a proper discussion. And they know it. That is why our opposition never even attempts to debate us, never even attempts to engage us in a straightforward, back and forward argument. The little debate. We've counter-protested many times against many different groups. Some of them, nothing more than brain-dead conspiracists. Others, slightly more refined hypocrites and apologists. But all of them united with one thing only: the Russian propaganda in their brain and the Russian rubles in their pockets. That is what unites them all, my friends. Those are the only things that unite them. Because if you put two different people of two different political spectrums that both support Russia in the same room, they will kill each other after a mere 5-minute talk. Personally, I was very surprised to find hardcore communists in the same exact rally as hardcore far-right white supremacists. And it's very interesting, because Russian propaganda works just as well in both. On one side, whilst the communists are being told that Ukrainians are a bunch of Nazis, the actual Nazis that support Russia are being told that Ukraine is a Zionist Jewish state. It's amazing, really. It doesn't take a genius to understand that somebody who says different things to different people just to get more support, it's not somebody who actually holds any truth in their hand. It's not somebody who speaks the truth. It's somebody that wants to control, to manipulate, and to destroy. To destroy the West as much as they can. That is the point of all this Russian propaganda pouring in the West. Trying to destabilize, trying to separate, trying to subvert. And it will continue. Make no mistake. It will continue until we finally wake up and we move towards victory for Ukraine. That is the only way to stop the Russian terrorist regime. You don't stop a war by appeasing the aggressor. We've tried that in World War II, or rather before it. And look where that got us. We've tried to negotiate with Russia in the past. And this is something I've heard not too long ago, Nigel Farage himself say, one of these lovely apologists. He said so himself, his words, not mine. Why don't we simply negotiate with Russia? Why don't we go to the negotiating table? Well, I have a little message for Mr. Farage. We tried, it failed, and let's not try that again. Because as we all well know, to try the same thing over and over again, what's expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. And we must not join the ranks of the insane. We must understand what's going on and move to a better future. To negotiate with Russia is to invite a fate equal or even worse to that of Yevgeny Prigozhin, the ex-leader of Wagner, who tried his absolute best to kill as many people as possible in Ukraine, for which Putin has praised him. But the very moment that Prigozhin has started to criticize the Russian government, the very moment that Prigozhin started to tell the truth about what really was going on in Russia, and the real reasons for the start of this war that the Russian terrorist regime had started, he was killed. Interesting, isn't it? That Prigozhin lost a lot of his popularity with the Russian regime, but not with the Russian people, mind you. Prigozhin entered Rostov-na-Donu with his army, and he was greeted with applause. That is what really got under Putin's skin. That is the real issue he had with Prigozhin. Not because he was committing war crimes. Putin invites war criminals in his court. And indeed, I call it a court, not a parliament. Because in a parliament with checks and balances, the rule of the president is never absolute. But in a court, the word of the Crimson King is law, and nothing else matters. And in this case, the word of the Muscovite Khanate is law. Whatever the Khan says will be done. And if it's not done, violence ensues. That is how Russia is ruled, my friends. It's not a free country. It's not a politically or ideologically or even culturally a European country. What little European influence Russia has was stolen from the Ukrainians. Because as you all well know, the Kievan Rus had its heartland in Ukraine. And its culture was Ukrainian. And that is what the Russians refuse to admit. That is what they can never admit, because it destroys a lot of the main points they made to start this war. But we must speak about it, my friends, so that people don't forget, so that people remember what happened in the past, so that they avoid those mistakes, so that they don't step on the same rake over and over again. That is our message, my friends. To stop this war, we need to stop Russia. Because if Russia stops fighting, the war ends. But if Ukraine stops fighting, Ukraine ends. I think we can see the distinction between these two countries, and why trying to equate them and put them on equal footing is silly at best and hypocritical at worst. Arm Ukraine as you promised.
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 Stop Putin, stop the war.
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 Stop Russia, 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 stop the war.
I believe in the past Obama has said something similar. That although the West has far more power than any countries like Russia, Iran, or North Korea, although in terms of sheer power, they are incomparable to the full might of the free world, they do have an advantage over the West. It is because they know how to chip away at the trust in the many different Western agreed, keep in mind, agreed laws. Whilst in those countries, whatever the leader says is law. There is no disagreement. There is no infighting. I mean, there was with the Wagner group, but stupid Prigozhin decided to make a deal with Putin. And once again, we all know how that ended. But my friends, the point is, Putin is not going to leave the office. The same can be said about the leaders in North Korea and about the leaders in Iran. They're not going anywhere. They're not going out of power. until there is a coup and until they are deposed, because those countries are not free. The people don't have the freedom and the ability to vote their leaders out of power. But here they can. And that is why Russia is attacking the common folk among anything else. They're bribing the politicians and filling the heads of the common folk with lies. That is what we must stop, my friends. That is the moment that we come in. We have to tell people what really is going on in Ukraine. That to stop supplying Ukraine with weapons is not going to stop the war, but instead it's going to start a genocide. And for all these individuals who think that no way Russia would start a genocide, no way, impossible, poor, little, defenseless, innocent Russia starting a genocide, no. These are conspiracies, certainly. But my friends, we should know better than that. All it takes is a quick search. We need to do some research into history, into Russian history. And with the minutest research, doesn't even have to be that much, you will realize that Russia is your enemy. Russia is everybody's enemy. Putin has spread this saying himself lately, and this is a popular saying in the Russian Empire. Russia has no borders. What does this mean? Does it mean that Russia allows anybody in? No, my friends, that's not what it means. It's quite the opposite, really. That Russia will continue expanding until Russia is stopped. That is what it means. And that is why, my friends, we have to remember that this war is not only a war that includes the Ukrainians. This is not a local war. This is a global war, a global struggle against the free world, a concentrated effort by the terrorist regimes and their terrorist proxies. Because of course, it's not just North Korea, Iran and Russia that are the enemy. There are so many proxies that they support fully and that they fund and that they allow to destabilize the many different countries around the world. We have to remember this, my friends. We have to remember it. Because if we don't, we are bound to repeat the same mistakes of the past. And that is something we should not do. There's this placard facing me right now. The Nova Kakhovka Dam. It's been a terrible day for a lot of people when the Russians decided to blow it up for just the minutest gain. And of course, as clockwork, the Russians have blamed the Ukrainians of doing it. Although the Ukrainians did not have the means to do it. Although the Russians were the ones who were controlling the Nova Kakhovka power plant, the dam, excuse me. That is what they're trying to do. It doesn't matter if it's believable or not. What matters is to keep slinging mud at the wall. And some of it is bound to stick. And of course, who else but our dear friend Tucker Carlson picked up this ridiculous conspiracy theory and started spreading it around as if it were the gospel. That's right. And I repeat his argument. He called Zelensky all kinds of names. And after doing